Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And okay, let's do this. Let's talk about Justice League. So what I want to do, obviously many videos are being made about the phenomena, about the fact that they only made 94 million this open weekend, and reviews and so forth, and then God knows the internet is just teeming with angry DCEU fans hurling insults at each other, or Warner Brothers, or Zack Snyder, or Joss Whedon, or the CEO, Kevin, whatever his name is. So what I wanted to do with my video is to just examine some of the arguments that are being made and to take a level-headed look at what the state of the DCU is right now. And Warner Brothers hasn't released much about what's coming next, but I think we can imply certain things. So first of all, only opening at 94 million for its opening weekend, that is bad. There's no way around that. Stop trying to pretend that at 94 million, how is that bad? That's great. You need to give it more weeks. You need to wait more. No. Stop. You're making yourself sound silly. 94 million is a wonderful total for any movie to make. It's a horrid total for Justice League to make. It is, as people have shown, the lowest grossing DCEU film. That means lower than the Suicide Squad. Just before you try and argue for the merit of that number, wrap your head around that. It's lower than Iron Man 1. Before anybody knew who the hell Iron Man was, it's lower than that film. It's pathetic. It's pitiful. And it really goes to show, honestly, how much of the Batman v Superman take in that first week was just spectacle ticket sales. People needing to come and see these characters together on the screen finally. They really lost that lump of ticket sales with Justice League, apparently. And before you start saying, oh, well, the critics, hated it, but the fans loved it or whatever. No, look at these ticket sales don't lie. If the fans loved it so much, where are they? Are there that few fans out there? And you can't just look at fan scores online without examining your source data. You're going to make an argument. You need to have valid sources. IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, fans can post there without having seen the film, and they can post as many times as they want. And we know that there is a very rabid contingent of Zack Snyder fans and DCEU fans who will go on there and post in multiple times. They've called out for their brothers in arms to do that with them on various social media groups and whatnot. If you look at a site like Cinema Blend, though, that actually confirms that you've seen the film, you have to confirm there that prove it, and then you're only allowed to review once. The Cinema Blend audience reviews are on par with one of those 50 Shades of Grey films, and I think even the My Little Pony film has a greater audience score than Justice League, and this is tragic. Let's think about some of the silly arguments that have been made. A couple people have told me that this fixes it now. It's a step in the right direction, so you should be rooting for it. No. The Justice League, the movie that we've been waiting for, us DC fans have been waiting for all our lives, deserves so much more than to be just a step in the right direction. It deserves so much more than to be better than Batman v Superman. My gosh, like anything's better than Batman v Superman. That's just insane. This is the Justice League movie. It should have done so much better. You can like it. There are people who say, well, I enjoyed it, or well, I had fun, or whatever. That's fine. That's taste. And taste has nothing to do necessarily with quality. And people on the internet don't understand that. Well, I liked it, so it's a high-quality film. And no, it's not. Zack Snyder doesn't know how to tell a story. He's shown that throughout his last films. Joss Whedon knows how to tell a story, but was only allowed so much time and so many scenes that he could reshoot. Plus, even anything that he would have done on his own has to be based on the foundation that Zack Snyder has laid. If Warner Brothers wants to continue making DC films, they are going to have to reboot. Whether they do that in-universe with something like Flashpoint, or whether they just scrap the films and do a Spider-Man Homecoming kind of deal where they're just going to reboot. That can be done. Spider-Man proved that. X-Men proves that, well, X-Men didn't really hard reboot, but something like the Days of Futures Past was a Flashpoint-like event that they could do. People like me just refuse to get on board when you're absolutely insisting on this foundation that Zack Snyder has laid. If you like those films, then that's great. You would enjoy it. You know, you're happy with it. But for people like me, I'm just trying to give you an example or reasoning why a lot of the people aren't getting on board is because we're not going to accept a Superman who just suddenly, you know, somebody in Warner Brothers executive snaps their fingers and now he's our Superman, guys. Now he's recognizable. No, I'm not going to accept all of that crap you drug him through. And just to say, well, now he's fine. Now he's good. Now he's our Superman. You can't, from a mythological standpoint, you can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. Even from a writing and a storytelling standpoint, it doesn't make any sense for a character just to change like that. If you're trying to do that sort of covert reboot, you might as well just reboot the whole stinking thing. Really, what more are you going to lose at this point, Warner Brothers? I don't understand it all, but I understand your reasoning that, it would have cost too much to fire Zack Snyder and to reboot at this point. We'd lose too much face. So, you know, in order to save money and to save face, we just need to keep going and just sort of like, you know, fix this film and everything will be fine. Well, that failed, and you've lost a lot more money than you would have otherwise, and you lost a lot of face too. I mean, the audiences don't trust you anymore. And again, I'm not talking about the Snyder fans. I know they're very in love with this film and they think, you know, that's wonderful, but they're not enough. I mean, the numbers don't lie. They are not enough. So it's time for a reboot. Finally, please give us the reboot and do these characters right from the beginning. Give us people who truly know the characters, who don't want to do new, interesting versions of them, and who just want to give us the true characters from the comics. It's just they've ruined so many options they had, bringing Jeff Johns into it and touting his name, but they didn't really give him any freedom to truly do anything. They still forced him to build on the Zack Snyder Foundation. So just the fact that he's involved isn't exciting anymore. Now they've backed themselves into a corner too, because Aquaman is definitely, they've already shot that, but that's firmly in this universe and is firmly with Aquabra that was not well received by audiences or critics. And I'm just going by scores here, so, you know, flip out on your own if you want to about, you know, how you liked him and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going by the numbers and the scores and the evidence that we have here. And Wonder Woman 2 will most likely get made because of the success of that film. But still, where are you going to go with that? They insisted that be set in Zack Snyder's continuity. So we had a Wonder Woman who gave up on mankind and just hid from them for, you know, centuries while all these atrocities took place until Batman, the man, came and told her that, you know, she's time to be a hero again. We had a Wonder Woman there who ran away from her island with a boy, basically, and who was born and bred to be a godslayer. No more of this ambassador of peace to man's world showing us the way or anything like that. So you've got to keep going with that if you're going to keep going with that continuity to piggyback on the popularity of the first Wonder Woman film. And that's that Zack Snyder Foundation. No matter how many Patty Jenkins and how many Jeff Johns you want to bring in to dress it up, you're still dealing with that foundation. But let's look at some of the other arguments that are being made. So different groups of DCEU fans or Zack Snyder fans or whatever have some different grievances here. Some of them, there's some that just say, this movie was great, you guys are idiots for not liking it, and the critics and everything's rigged, you know, all of that silliness that's easily disproven. But then you've got some people who blame Joss Whedon. And they say, well, this is Joss Whedon's fault, and by extension, Warner Brothers' fault for bringing him in. They say that Zack Snyder should have been allowed from the beginning, even before he had to leave for his family tragedy. They were clearly calling shots and making him change things from the beginning, because again, he shot this. They scheduled him to start shooting this a week after Batman v Superman was released. So some people are loyal to Snyder and think that this is all the studio's fault for messing things up, for forcing him to cut down Batman v Superman even, and so on. Well, that's simply not true. Now, that might be true for you. If you like the movies and you like Zack Snyder, then you might get something closer to what you want out of this Justice League movie or whatever. But that would not have saved it at all, because Man of Steel was all pure Zack Snyder. And that was an incredibly divisive film. Made a decent amount of money, as, you know, as far as just a film goes in general, but it was not the reawakening and reborn Superman and rebooted Superman that they hoped it would be. That's why they had to hurry up and throw Batman into the sequel, so they could just, you know, get the Batman money in there. I mean, that's Man of Steel. That disproves that whole idea that, well, Zack Snyder's vision would have been amazing. Again, maybe to your taste, but it would not have saved this movie. What are some of the people do actually blame Zack Snyder and think that Warner Brothers should have fired him from the beginning with Justice League and just had Joss Whedon come in. But again, if you're still building on this universe's foundation, audiences were just done at that point. They're not going to accept this continuity. these actors are already associated with the storylines and the treatments that we've seen them in and playing these characters. We're not going to forget that. We're not just going to, oh, okay, well, he's smiling now, so everything's fine. No, audiences don't work like that in general. Another argument is that the Kevin Sugihara, I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, but the CEO, well, he's the problem. He needs to go. Again, because, Warner Brothers meddling. But again, you might be happy about that, but that's not going to save the films at all. I mean, I'm all for cleaning house at Warner Brothers because the choice to double down on Zack Snyder's vision was atrocious from the start. If they'd simply, even before Man of Steel was made or before Zack Snyder was hired or anything, if they had simply allowed George Miller to make his Justice League Gods and Mortals film, this would have predated the Avengers. This would have been, the script is actually available now. I've read the script and it's amazing. It needed a couple little tweaks here and there. There are a couple little things that would have been problematic, but nowhere near the problems that Man of Steel or any of the following DCEU films had. If they'd done that, not only would they have beaten the MCU to the punch, but then they would have had a wonderful Justice League film that drew on the popularity and the familiarity that people had from the Bruce Timm animated universe. And they would have been on the top of the hill right there from the get-go. And they could have kept going. But apparently there was, I don't know if Christopher Nolan was all up in a tizzy about that movie happening because it used Batman and Talia al Ghul and he needed his Dark Knight Rises to be, untainted or whatever. And that ended up being the weakest film of that trilogy. Just one bad decision after another from Warner Brothers. It's really tragic. And people say, how can you root or be happy that this film failed if you claim to love these characters? Well, it's simple, because I love the characters, not these abominations of the characters. I love my hopeful, inspirational Superman who was raised by John and Martha Kent to be hopeful and to believe in himself and to make the world a better place. This guy's not that. I don't care how much he smiles or how much he, throws a few bones to the idea of hope in this film. He's still raised by Kevin Costner's awful emotional abuse, Jonathan Kent, and still has all of that backstory. It's not my character. It's not my Superman. So yeah, I'm happy that these guys aren't making it. And, there's the argument that, well, if one superhero film doesn't do well, then they're all going to go bad. And how dare you, well, that's may or may not be the case, but that's not the angle I'm coming at it from. I'm coming at it from a mythological angle. I think these characters are necessary in our society and fulfill certain functions. And when you try to completely deconstruct them, and then just pretend that you didn't, it's just not going to work. So it's not good for the characters. It's not good for storytelling. It's not good for their mythology, and it's not good for society overall. So that's my angle on that there. But anyway, I'm sure I've infuriated many, of the passionate minority of fanboys. And I say minority not as an insult, but again, simply from the numbers. If there's so many of you, where were you for the 94 million that was, brought in by opening weekend? If fandom's that desperate, then that's another testament to the film not being very good and being in a precarious situation. And that's certainly the case for Justice League. Precarious, the entire DCU. What's going to happen now? We don't know. I would like to get my characters portrayed on the screen, my DC characters portrayed. Anyway, attempting to bring some logic to some of the silly arguments that are out there. Again, if you like the movie, wonderful. Go see it 1,000,000 times. It's in the theater now. That's, it's there for you to see. So, no one can stop you from liking it or doing that. Go for it. But stop pretending that everything's fine and that anybody who has a criticism or a concern about the universe at this point is just, completely silly or a Disney Marvel shill or whatever. It's just making yourself look quite ridiculous. I would like to know, though, what you think would fix this. What kind of reboot situation, because they do have Aquaman coming. So how are they going to reboot this if you've got a film already made that's firmly in the universe? And then what do they do about Wonder Woman, and so forth? I mean, I'm all for a reboot. I would cheer if they brought in the right people to make these characters the way they're supposed to be. I think that'd be wonderful. From a business standpoint, they're going to answer a couple questions about that. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that. I'll be back later in the week with some comic book reviews or TV talk. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero movies you love. Thanks for watching.